Right. So I think Mr. President don't like to be heard sometimes. So we will continue. So my name is Collins, like I said, and tonight we'll be dealing on something that is quite important. Um, Oftentimes, a lot of us really ask the question: we have so much energy. How can we translate some of this energy into creating sustainability around our environment and around our globe? We are all Africans, and I'm Nigerian, um, but based in London, United Kingdom. And what I'm sharing with you is what I called my continent story and mine. So we'll be taking a deep dive. I'll take my time to do I'll take my time to digest this conversation, try as much as I can to ensure that everyone is being carried along. Or we have a whole lot of statistics here, but what I did is for every number or anything I quote here, I try as much as I can to put underneath where the information came out from. So it's not just me making up numbers and making up statistics. These are proven facts that are verifiable. Consider If you want to look any of the statistics up, you can. Now, starting with this conversation, let's do a little bit of deep dive into Africa, understanding the problem first before we talk about our potentials, where we're going with some of these, and how we can translate some of these potentials into global impact. First things first, by 2050, we're going to add an extra 1 billion people in Africa. So far, Africa is a continent of about 1.4 billion people. So in the next 24 years, if my numbers serve me right, yes, in the next 24 years, Africa is going to have an extra billion added to our continent. And the question we ask ourselves is what we are building. What exactly are we building with that number, or what are we building so far that would help that number to live a more healthy and sustainable life, right? So our conversation is and tonight would entirely center around how to turn our potentials into national impact. I had already mentioned that. Now, the continent of Africa, right? Our continent, your continent, my continent, we don't have a problem of, oh, sorry, we don't have a problem of potential. We don't have a potential problem. Rather, um, what problem we have is a conversion problem, right? Within our society, we understand that each and every one of us, if we look into our corners, we find out that we are doing something strategic. We are really trying to create impact. We are really trying to push in our different spheres of influence. But the conversion, this gap, this dotted gap in between potential and impact, right, is what we call the conversion gap. What exactly is happening in between this gap, and how can we also help to create sustainable factors that would help people move from this potential to impact? A lot of talent in Africa are being um, turned down, if I would say that several persons rise and fall with their talent in Africa, and is a very big problem. Hence, we are witnessing undue brain drain. But we're going to talk about that in a much more detailed manner. So, potentials we have in Africa is in abundance. Like I used to tell people, there is hardly any conversation on the global stage that you would not find an Africa either as a part of the team or as a part of people that is drawing that resolution to a close. So you find out that what problem we have is it's not that we don't have the brains as a people. It's not that we don't have what it takes for us to become better, but we do not have in recent time, we do not have the necessary technology that can help to harness some of these potentials within us. And we're going to do a deep dive into why that has been. Now, here is the size of the prize waiting for us. Like, whilst doing this research, I had to ask several questions, right? What are the questions I've asked? What exactly do we have today? Now, in like I pointed out earlier, by 2050, in the next 24 years, we're going to have 2.5 billion people. That's the population that we're going to have. And already we have a very strong GDP as a people. Not too strong, but then it's coming up, right? In recent time, we have $3.4 trillion Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Now, remember, if you are conversant with the African Union and her dealings, you can recall that in 2028, the African Union came up with what's called an African Continental Free Trade area, in the sense that countries within and across Africa can do business amongst themselves with little or no bottlenecks around tariff, around movement of goods, and cases like that. So this clearly entails that you in Nigeria can ship your goods to Ghana, can ship your goods to Algeria, Ethiopia, without facing a lot of bottleneck. So this makes it a lot more easier for us as Africans to do trade, and that is a very fantastic blueprint to bring forth, because if we are trying to if we want the Africa that works, then we should be able to move freely. And I was watching a video where Dangote was telling I think that was Emmanuel Macron, the president of France. He was telling Emmanuel Macron that he has more leverage coming to Africa. What does that mean? Like, Emmanuel Macron can visit a lot of African countries with little or no restrictions. But him, Dangote, as an African and as a Nigerian, finds it difficult to visit several African countries because of the rigidity of our movement within and across Africa. So I believe that the African Continental Free Trade Area makes that hindrance a lot more easier, and that solves the problem. Now, what is the other price that is here? Considerably, like I mentioned, we are a continent of 1.4 billion people, trading in the market. Now, we're coming to the good side of the story. I said here, now the largest free trade market on earth is being built right now by the youngest population on earth, and I'm part of it. You can now, why did I point out that the largest free trade market? Going by statistics, also we find out that the global demographic comparison. When we do a global demographic comparison, you find out that in Africa, the median age, right, in Africa is 19 years, right? The approximate median age is 19 years. And that is a very good prospect for us, because that signifies that we have high number of young people within the continent of Africa compared to Asia. I made a note about it. Compared to Asia, which is 32 years, Oceania is 33 years. Look at that. North America is 39 years. Europe is 43 years, and then South America is 32 years. So the median age in Africa is 19 years. So if we are going to be 2.5 billion in the next 24 years, that means in the next 24 years, you and I are going to be the captains that will be commanding influence within and across Africa. That means the youngest entrepreneur and the youngest captains of industries are going to be around 45, 46, and 50 years. So in that alone speaks volume about the kind of shift, the kind of strategic shift that is expected to happen in Africa in the next 24 years. Take, for example, the least person amongst us today is 20 years. So in the next 24 years, that person is going to be what? 44, is it not? So in the next 24 years, we have someone of 44 years leading and championing development within and across Africa. And that speaks volume about what kind of progress that awaits us. Hence why looking strategically about how to transform our potentials to meet with this global prospect is very important. Conversations around helping people understand better is very important. We have 3.4 trillion already that is being traded. That's the GDP of all African countries combined. Now, in the next 24 years, this number is going to improve, and we're going to talk about that in more clearer terms, right? Now, so far, we have, hold on a second, please. I think right, thank you. So yeah, it was blocking off my reading. I couldn't see the barrier. So now let's do a quick, sorry.
Yeah, you can go ahead, sir.
Oh, thank you. So now, so far, we have several barriers, right? It's good. We know the numbers already. We have seen the numbers, the prospects awaiting us. But what are the problems that we are facing so far as a people? Now, we have several barriers, which the barrier number one is the job gap, right? Don't get me wrong. I know, we know, but let us say it again, just for saying sake. But we know the problem, and this is one of the problem: the job gap. In our continent, right, we have about 450 million new workers. Because why is that happening? Because the median age is 19. That is to say, at 19, let's say at 19, you're just leaving secondary school, or these days people leave school at 15. So at 15, you've left secondary school. And since I'm speaking to Nigerians, let's say if ASU strike doesn't happen to you for the next 4 years, that means 15 plus 4, that is at 19. You have already left the university and you've joined the job market. So we have 450 new workers of like every year, and that number is because of our population, because we have more young people coming out, more young people coming into the job market, and only 100 new jobs are being created. Only 100 new jobs are available for these 450 million new workers. Now, it's very important to note that this is not just a barrier, right? It's actually a prospect, just that our society hasn't been forward thinking in their approach in terms of job creation, because the problem is not that we do not have the necessary mineral resources that would help us tap into some of these prospects, because having a population growth is a prospect in and of itself, right? There are compared to Europe, where you have the median age to be 43, Africa has 19. So if you have people who are 19, that means you have people who are capable, willing, and able to work. So all you have to do as a government or as an entity is to provide the enabling factor that would convert these capable, willing, and able-bodied human beings into a workforce. And when you convert this number into a workforce, imagine having a very good number of young people working with you in your little industry, compared to having a number. I'm not age shaming anybody, but let us do the analysis. Who would you rather have? Someone who is 25 or 23 working with you, or would you rather have someone who is 50? People with 50, I'm not, I'm saying they are not good, but there is an extent to what they can do. So that means the prospect within and across Africa is quite amazing, because you have people who are young, energetic, and can stand up and move and go to places at every point in time you need them. But we have a very big problem. And what is the problem? Just 100 new jobs are being created, right? New workers across new working age in Africa by 2030 will be 450, and also new jobs created by that same 2030 is going to just be 100. Now, even amongst us who are working, 96% hold informal jobs, 4 in 10 live below the poverty line. So even with the people that are working as well, the poverty rate is still high. That means even the jobs that are still made available is not able to pay the bills, and the jobs are not even able to give one a strong standard of living. So we are really backwards. You can read more of this on the World Economic Forum and then African Development Bank statistics. That's where you find more of this information. But moving forward, right? Sorry. Yes, moving forward to barrier number 2, the capital gap. Now, this one really shook me, right? This one really shook me, and I didn't like it. And we're going to talk about it a little bit more. The barrier number 2 is the capital gap. We have about $331 billion that's missing, right? Is missing in several ways, and I'm going to tell you how this $331 million are missing. The sub-Saharan African micro, small, and medium enterprises locked out. We have about 60% of micro, small, and medium enterprises. 60% of that if yes, 50% of micro, small, and medium enterprises are being locked out. In comparison to Latin America, we just have 40%. And there are several factors that really makes micro, small, and medium enterprises within and across Africa to be locked out. And most of the barriers we found out are under finance, right? We have financial lockout. We have high cost of borrowing. In Africa, especially in Nigeria, I'm from Nigeria, right? It's very difficult for micro, small, and medium enterprises to access loan from the bank. The bar has been raised so high that it makes it very difficult for someone who is running a kiosk, the little kiosk on roadsides, let's say little kiosks on roadsides, to access funding from banks. It has been made so impossible. And micro, small, and medium enterprises are integral factors for economic development. You cannot bank on the high and top conglomerates. Don't get me wrong, the high and big conglomerates are good, but you also need the micro, small, and medium enterprises for you to have a very strong economy that would help to sustain several economic factors in the nation. But within and across Africa, the financial lockout is a thing. And another barrier around financial lockout is impossible collateral demand, right? You approach a bank to access loan, but you have it's very impossible for you to assess loan because the demand is so high. There was a time when we started our first company. When I started my first company, that was back then in the university, and we were really in need of funds. I approached my bank officer, right? Regardless of the fact that the company we started was really turning over millions, right? But the bar was raised so high that they needed a land that has C of O. Not just a land anywhere that has C of O. It has to be in strategic positions. The valuation has to be a certain amount of money, not just any land. It has to be, and then you have to bring a guarantor who is a civil servant in level. Oh my God! So they made it so difficult for us to even access that fund. And how much were we even asking for? That's the question. How much did we approach the bank to get? But because the bar was raised so high, we were unable to access that loan, and it really had negative impacts on our business. It came to a point that we had to shut down every means of operation because the high level of demands, the high level collateral demands, right, was so high. It was so high. So moving on to another barrier, right, that makes this 331 billion to be still be missed, right, is inadequate record keeping, right? Because we think is a small scale business, we don't give it much attention when it comes to recording sales, recording just having strong bookkeeping around what we're doing. We have to, as a people, be much more strategic around formal setup of a business of a business entirely. You can't run a business and then you don't know how much you are turning over every week, how much you're turning over every year, every month. You don't even have a strong recording of how these monies are being spent, and that is very wrong. So in that kind of state, you can't even approach any institution for funding, for partnership, and for loan, because before you are able to approach institutions for loans and all of that, you have to present your modus operandi. First of all, you have to show how much you are turning over. You have to show your governing policies, and these are some of the integral things that you need as a small a micro small and medium enterprise, right? These are things that you need to show, and that speaks a lot about why this 331 billion is being missing. And another one is I said that trade and market lockout. Under trade and market lockout, why this is a problem within and across Africa is that we have currency mismatch. Now, I read one time when the African Union said they actually want to have a singularized currency across Africa. That is a very strong strategy, and that is a very strong rule, or whatever strong policy, call it anything, is very strong. Why is that important? Because when you're trading with a singularized currency, say you are trading with euro, because the European Union adopted euro and everyone within the European Union trade with that, so it's a single currency. There is no disparity when it comes to, okay, I'm paying less or I'm paying big. It's one of the reasons why the UK here left the Brexit. Let's not go into that, and why some European countries within the European territory is not in the European Union, because their economy is not strong enough to be a part of the countries that use the euro. And in Africa, we can actualize that. Which countries are doing well when it comes to a turnover? What are the strong GDPs in Africa? You talk about South Africa, you talk about Ethiopia, you talk about Nigeria, you talk about Egypt, you talk about which other country? Algeria is doing well. So we could use that as a specimen. Let the strong GDPs come together and have a singularized currency. In that way, it will help other economies to step up their game in order to be a part of the we could say Afronair, or whatever currency we will call it, right? This would help other small economies, like I wouldn't call the name of the countries, like, but we know small economies in Africa. This would help them to come up. And remember when Greece had some economic crisis some years back, it took most of their countrymen to come up and say, let's save this economy, because if we are unable to save this economy, Greece is going to be pushed out of the EU. And they did everything humanly possible to still maintain strong economic values, just so that they can still be in the EU. And that is something that I think Africa can do, because we don't have a singularized currency. We're still on 5. Oh God. So because we don't have a singularized currency, that is a very big challenge when it comes to transportation of goods and services, or in trading and doing business within and across Africa. Because someone is trying to do business from Nigeria to Ghana, you are exchanging your goods for cedis, and then you need to convert the money to naira, because you're trading in naira. And yes, it's good that we have dollar, which of course is a legal tender across the globe, but you are trading against a currency that is not indigenous to you. So that means that brings about economic disparity, because you can't trade on a currency that is not indigenous to your currency. So you have to still do some conversion. So it's a lot of things, and it hampers our growth and development as Africans. So because we don't have a singularized currency, doing business within and across Africa becomes very, very difficult. And I said the small business financing gap across sub-Saharan Africa, some Sub-Saharan Africa capital that exists but doesn't reach businesses like the ones we are building, right? these problems that we're able to find out. Another problem there is exorbitant logistic cost. Because of not having singularized currency, we are really paying so much when it comes to logistics. I need visa. Imagine, I need visa for me to go to South Africa, and I need visa for me to go to some African countries. But if that was free, most of the cost we impute in logistics would have been enshrined into business, day-to-day business running, and then it will help us to scale higher. So some of these factors are the reasons, are some of the barriers we face as a continent and as a people, and that has to be looked into. But yeah, maybe at another time. So another barrier we have is the barrier of age difference and the people in power. This speaks volume about the governing team and the governing body. So this might not be for you directly, but then we still have to talk about it as a people, right? The voice gap, that's what I call the voice gap. Because we have a median age of 19, but the median leadership age in Africa is 63. So we have a population that is 60% of 19-year-olds. 60%, not just 19-year-old, right? 60% of youth. If I'll put it that way, 60% of youth, but we are being led by people, a 40%, by the 40% who of course are 63. Their median age is 63. So that gap, it seems as though we are not being understood, or our voices are not being heard, or we are being led by people who don't understand how we think, or who don't understand how we relate. Don't get me wrong, I'm not age shaming anybody, but we have to have more young voices around politics and political affairs in Africa, because we are being led by people who clearly, when they went to school, some of the technological advancements we have now we are not in operation. And because of that, they are only leading based on the ideas and ideologies they built over time, which of course has served purpose some years back, but it's still not a functional procedure that should be used now. So this age gap is another barrier that we have within and across Africa, because we are being led by people who clearly do not really understand what we want as a people, what we want as young people, and where we can move ahead. It baffles me that even now we are still talking about good road and pipe-borne water, where that's still being used in manifestos, in political manifestos at this era. That in and of itself is a problem, because I believe we have crossed that point, but because the problem still persists, because we still don't have good road and pipe-borne water, which of course has been institutionalized by the politicians. What do I mean? Politicians institutionalize poverty, institutionalize not building some of these roads, because that's the only thing they could use as political manifesto. Therefore, they can't still build the roads, because that's what they understand. But having someone who is born in this era and who understands the age and time that we're in, who understands the place of AI and technologies to run the affairs of the nation, is will stand a much more vantage position in competing at a global scale. So near half-century gap between us and the decisions made for us. If you minus 63 from 16, I think we have about 44. So it's like 44 years gap. You need add 6 to it. We're going to have how many? 50 years. So half a century gap. We are being led by people who really don't understand, and that in and of itself is a barrier to our development. Then what's at stake, right? A demographic dividend unclaimed becomes a demographic crisis. A demographic dividend unclaimed becomes a demographic crisis. What does that mean? The demography we have is a demography of young people of median age being 19. So if we do not claim this demography of persons, we will lose out entirely, and it's going to be a crisis, right? We have a case of unemployment unheard, unfunded. This is how our generation's energy turned into instability and migration instead of growth, right? Because the young people of our time are, I wouldn't say we are impatient, but Knowledge has evolved and people want to hear what will make them prosper and move ahead. But when this energy is not being harnessed, we find ourselves living in crisis, and we have to solve that problem as a people, and as young people as well. We have to start thinking of sustainable ways to still help ourselves, even though the geography is not really where we want to be. But we have to now start looking out for ourselves, because, like I said, we have people who are almost half a century age gap with us. So we have to create sustainable means of helping ourselves as young people. Now, the anomaly also, aside the fact that we have some of these issues that we've raised, the anomaly is that 1 in 5 of us are actively building a business right now, and the highest rate recorded anywhere in the world, right? Even though we have some of these barriers and some of these challenges, age, geography, and everything, 1 in 5 of people within and across Africa as of today are building businesses, and that's the highest recorded anywhere in the world. So we, even though the problem still persists, we are still pushing against the tide. And 60% of us believe we have the skill and opportunity to start a business, more than double the confidence rate in Europe. And which is true. I live here and I understand that is people here don't think about starting businesses or starting something for themselves. But you find someone in the streets of Lagos telling you, oh God, I want to start this and I know it's going to work. Most of us started businesses, right? Even whilst in the university, and it worked, right? This is an anomaly, and people, a lot of time, people marvel to see how come a poverty the poverty stinking place, yet people are thinking about how to start a business and how to get businesses to work. That is the strength we have as a people, and that is the passion we have as a continent. Now, the highest entrepreneur activity in the world, the worst access to capital in the world, both at once. We have the highest and still the worst at the same time, locked up in one continent. And how can we turn this anomaly? How can we change this? How can we help ourselves? How can we, push ahead even though the tide is not to our favor? We'll be looking at that very shortly. Now, how? How can we do it? Start before you are funded, right? Start before you are funded. I was telling someone the other day, I said, if you wait until the road is clear, then you will never start the journey, right? If you wait until the road is clear, you will never start the journey. As a young person, we have odds. Several odds are against us within and across Africa, and we have to chest it. It has come to stay. It has come to stay. So each and every one of us have to chest it and say, even though this is where we are, we just have to start. Because waiting for capital is not a strategy. Building is, right? And you don't need so much to start, depending on what you want to start. Having the big pictures are quite important, but still starting with the little capital you have is much more important, because how long shall we wait for the big pictures and for the big capitals for us to start reaching out to prospective investors, start building on something, leverage on your friends and network? That is why, excuse me please, that is why it's very, very important for us to be in the right spaces and connect with the right people, right? And I said here, across Africa, small and growing businesses already generate roughly 5 in 10 jobs, right? Most of them started without formal financing. Most of the powerful conglomerates we see, if we ask Dangote how he started, I'm sure he never started with an oil refinery. I bet he never did. But now he's able to build $1 billion refinery now because he started some time ago. So hence that should be a boost for us. We have tangible models to place side by side on our vision and say, if this person was able to do it, then we could start with something from where we stand right now, right? So these businesses, the businesses everyone said couldn't get funded, are already how the economy runs, right? And then, yeah, I would tell you, at Andino, we mapped the trust gap in African travel long before a check was signed. We have not even signed any check because the problem doesn't wait for funding, right? And neither should we. We started Andino, right? I would just say one thing. Andino is a travel and hospitality management platform where we try to help people regain trust within and across Africa. Travelers that are coming into Africa want to bring back trust. But what did we do? Right, we started with the discovery. Exactly what is the problem first of all. Then we pushed to the MVP, the roadmap, and clearly the trust. Right, we just have to start from what you have on ground. Till date, we haven't even landed a check. So I just said that before check was signed. We have not even signed the check, but we're looking forward to signing that, and we're looking forward to scaling and building something bigger. But I did not wait until the federal government said, oh, we are giving grants to young people between ages 30 and 35, so you can come. No, we started because we had something in our hands, and then it was quite fruitful for us to do something within our continent. Now the how, number two, how can we do this, right? Sell to the world, and not just your street, sell to the world. And I'm going to talk more about this because this is quite an amazing data I found out a few days ago. Now, remote and freelance work across Africa has grown 55% to since 2020. A lot of people would say 2020 really changed the world diagram and changed the direction of the world. Very important. What did 2020 do to us during COVID, right? People found out how fragile we are as a people, found out how fragile we are as a continent. If you cannot go out for 1 week, 20 hours, 10 hours, what can you do? 2020 was the peak of self-discovery for most of us, right? And 55% of freelance work in Africa increased since 2020, right? That same energy we used to say, oh, a lot of us went into tremendous personal developmental journey because you found out that you're just sitting at home. What can you do with your hands? How can you improve? You were just locked up in your house. You can't even go out, go for football games or anything. That was a self-discovery time, and we can still self-discover even more. Now that we are coming out, meeting people, we can still self-discover, right? One of the fastest rates anywhere in the world. This was one of the fastest rates anywhere in the world, and 55% of us are really connected online and doing freelancing jobs, right? In Nigeria alone, like we have here, more than a third of us already freelance for clients we've never met in person. Skills travel further than degrees or passport do now, right? So you don't say no one is doing it or they're not taking Nigerians. Look at the numbers. Look at the numbers. More than a third of us. We are a country in Nigeria. We have 245 to 250 million people. A third of that already is working for companies outside Nigeria. Therefore, you and I can still do better and more, right? Because what everyone is looking for is your skill and not your passport or your geography, where you're located. Nobody's looking at where you're located. People are looking at what skills you have to offer and what abilities you have within yourself, right? 55% growth in African remote and freelance work since 2020. 21 million plus Africans now earn through digital gigs. So don't say no one is getting the jobs. People are. 21 million plus people. Already we are a continent of 1.4 billion people today, and 21 million plus already are earning through digital gigs. So there is a prospect out there. Where you are looking really matters, and the skills you have is actually important. Is actually important at this age and time. And then 35% plus of young Nigerians already freelance globally. Nigeria, 245 to 250 million people. 35% of people in Nigeria are earning globally. So if you are doubting that nobody is getting it, quote this number, that about 35% plus people in Nigeria are already earning through global gigs. Now, the how number 3, right? Borrow belief before you have proof. You have to borrow belief. You have to believe that you can, right? A mentor doesn't hand you a job; they hand you a map. And here we are clearly made it clear, right? A randomized study of young job seekers in Uganda found that those matched with a mentor found work faster and were more likely to use the skill they've trained for and earn more a year later. You can find that on JPAL. Just browse JPAL statistics about Uganda job seekers. You'll find that information, right? There are things that you will never get when you are still in the same position over time. There are informations you will never access. There are connections you will never have if you still revolve within the same circle over the time. So you have to change gear. You have to change your network. Not just changing, you have to push ahead to get more network. You have to move ahead. You have to go get that handshake. It's very important to go get that handshake within this time, because there are several informations that are flying around, but where you are is the reason why you haven't heard them. People are really cashing out on daily basis. Cashing out, I mean, not fraud, through very strong means, but where you are hasn't allowed you to access some of this information. So you have to push ahead. Now, it's the same instinct behind Yang, right? It's the same instinct behind Yang. We are a network that has trained up to more than 5,000 young people across 17 nations, right? Because reach compounds when we stop trying to do it alone. In Yang, we have stretched for that. We've been having training since 2018. We've been having trainings. We bring people from different backgrounds to share information. My dear, if all the informations you get in Yang already, if you've been consistent in following the programs and projects we do in Yang, and by now you have not changed gear, then we have to pray over you and your ancestors, because there's something wrong with your root. Not an insult, but you have to be in a space that brings people to talk to you, that brings people to advise you, and Yang is that place. If you are a member of Yang, good for you, because there are several things to get, and I'll tell you this for free. Several persons in Yang has gotten job employment because of not just the information they get here, because of the network they were able to connect with. After the conference, they were able to build a connection with some of the people we brought, and they got offered an employment, right? If few of us have gotten international opportunities through Yang. So we are not just here to waste your time. If you're wasting your time, if you feel your time is being wasted, I think you need to look in depth to understand what exactly are the values that are coming out from this space, and how can I harness these values. These are very, very important strategies for you to progress as a young person in the future. Now, the how number 4, right? The number one, no one is finished becoming. No one is finished becoming. The lowest starting point isn't a life sentence, and this is a problem, right? You think we think that when things are actually not working out well, or we are at the lowest point in our life, then we have to retire. No, right? Some of the steepest turnaround aren't economic, they are personal, right? In my role, like I said here, in my role here, and I work with secured estates where young people who have made shitty and crazy decisions in their life are being kept. And I tell them, I serve as a youth mentor, and I tell them, the fact that you are here doesn't mean you have to be here. You have a future ahead of you. When you are done doing your time here, move into the society, start to build again, start again, continue. Most of us has done businesses that really did not work out. Does that mean doing business is wrong, or does that mean we cannot still do business? It's very wrong to think in that direction. The best approach to downfall and downturn is to persist. That's the best approach. You have to persist, you have to continue, and you have to make gains for yourself and win, because that is the destination that we are looking for. So the refusal to write anyone off, we have to refuse to write ourselves off. You have to refuse to write yourself off, because you have a future ahead of you. And what is that future? The future and the goal is that we are aiming to come to a point where we are much more sufficient as young individuals, and we're making out great and tremendous things for ourselves. That is the destination. Right now, the pattern: start before you are funded. Like I had mentioned earlier, if we waited before pushing out our product, which of course is Andino, we would not come to this point where we are. We are just doing background run around, look at the website, look at the mobile app. We're still testing them. We are doing prototyping, the lean PRD. We are developing several documents just to make sure that we are coming out better. But did we wait for funding? No, we did not. We did not wait for funding. We've done our prototyping. We never waited for funding. We started the app already. We are testing them. We are not waiting for funding. Even though funding is nice, but do we have to wait for it forever? No. We have to start from where you are and see what you can do for yourself first, because that is the testimony you will be telling your investors, your prospective investors, right? You can't tell an investor, you can't go to an investor with an idea. No, that is the problem. I see people come up and say, I have an idea around this. No, develop it first. Let me see if it's going to work. If you believe in it, start it. Right? You don't walk up to people and share ideas, share results, share what you've started, and that is the way to start as a young person. Start before you're funded. The second one is sell beyond your streets. If you are intentional about building something for the globe, why restrict and regiment it to your circle alone? Push ahead. There is something more out there in the street, beyond your street. There's something much more out there, beyond your street. You have to go, and then you borrow belief. First of all, you have to believe in yourself, my dear. Borrow belief. If you don't have, borrow from mine. I believe a lot, and therefore I will become. Right? You have to tell yourself that. You have to borrow belief. That is what really the 21st century business operation needs. You have to believe that your product will excel and that your product will scale. And then you have to refuse to be finished, regardless of the downturn in business. Someone was saying something. He said Donald Trump has filed for bankruptcy how many times? More than 3 times. That Mr. President has filed for bankruptcy, but he's the president today. But he's still a billionaire. He's still doing businesses. He has Mar-a-Lago, he has a Trump Tower, he has a golf course, even in Scotland. I'm not saying he's a perfect model for business, but then you have to refuse to be finished. And the richest person on earth, Elon Musk, happened to be African, South African, indigenous, from an indigenous white background in South Africa. His father is South African, born in Pretoria, South Africa. But did he accept to be finished because he is African? No, he is the richest person on earth, whether we like it or not, whether he has a second citizenship or not. This is the fact, and the fact speaks for itself. So you have to refuse to be what? To be finished. And none of these waits for permission. That's exactly why it works when the system doesn't. None of the things I listed are here. Starting before you were funded, selling beyond your street, borrowing belief, and refusing to be finished. None of them waits for permission. That is why it works. And then, what's waiting for us? Come on, let's explore what's waiting for us in future. Remember, we had said that we are a country with a median age of 19 years, a continent with a median age of 19 years, a continent that in the next 24 years, we are going to be 2.5 billion people already. Now, the persistent isn't a consolation prize, it's a payout. Look at this. This is the number. 712 billion is what Africa's digital economy is projected to be worth by 2050. Up from 180 billion in 2025. So last year we were on 180, but in the next 24 years we'll be 712 billion. Now it will belong to whoever who is already building on it. Now 712 billion already is the prospects that we anticipate to have within and across Africa. Our digital economy is expected to be 712, but now is 180. So what exactly are you building for you to be a partaker of a chunk, if not a chunk, a piece or a little bit of this 712? You cannot say, oh, the world is not fair on you when you are not building any system to help you stay afloat as an individual. Don't get me wrong, nobody is coming to save you. And until you get that in your score, you will not improve. Nobody is coming to save you. Not even the government, not even the United Nations is coming to save you. You have to save yourself. This is what awaits us. What system are you building for you to be a partaker of 712 billion that we're going to have as the digital economy of Africa in the next 24 years? So think about that. That should give you an idea of an idea that the future holds a lot of prospects. And if we are ready for it, we are going to be a partaker of it. Now, the second statistics here is that we have 250 to 300 billion dollars generated every year by African women entrepreneurs, despite facing an even wider financial gap than the rest of us. Persistence beating worse odds at continental scale. I had to put this here because it seems as though I'm relating and talking with just men alone, right? So this has nothing to do with men. Do you understand? This has nothing to do with men. Sorry, my dear. So this has nothing to do with men. If you're a young lady listening to me, this has more to do with you. We have 250 to 300 billion generated every year by women in Africa. So if you think that all I'm saying is rocket science and it has nothing to do with you as a woman, I'm so sorry. 250 to 300 billion are generated by people like you. So your age and your sex has nothing to do with economic development and economic persistence and improvement. So 250 to 300 billion, let that number ring. So if you're a young person and you're a woman, you should also be building something for yourself. Now, and because of the want of time, your playbook. So I'm going to end with the playbook, right? I had to rush so I will get here. What this means for us starting from tonight. What does it mean for you starting from tonight, right? We have to start the things before you feel ready. 1 in 5 of us already did. Like I said, 1 in 5 of the population of people in Africa are already building businesses. So it's not new. It has nothing to do with, oh, I'm the first person to do it. No, sorry, my darling, you are not the first. 1 in 5 of us are already building businesses, right? 1 in 5 of us are already setting structures in place. You could be amongst that 1 in the 5. You could be amongst that 1 in the 5 in a continent of 1.4 billion. You could be amongst the 1 that is already starting a business today, and you have to start considering the skill, not just what's trending. Right? I wish we could do an expository talk in regards to business development and idea creation and things that really work, but we don't have the time, right? 1 in 5 is trying it, and you have to try based on what you have and what you know you can do as an individual. And the second part is that you have to list your skill on a global platform this week, not someday. List your skill on a global platform. What does that mean? You have to look at your innate skill and skills and abilities. How can it compete on a global scale? What do you have that the people want? What do you even have that your family can beckon on you for? What do you even have that can solve a problem? What do you even have that a society, that a people, a continent can bank on? What do you have? What skills do you have? You can't complain of the government when you have no skill. If I come now and say I'm the president and I want to employ you, can you serve? Or are you looking to go into an office and start embezzling funds because of lack of productivity and creativity on your end? So these are the problems we have, right? You have to, start grading your skill. What do you have? Do you have a skill? What skill is that? Can it compete on a global scale? Gone are the days where we talk about when somebody is not catching up in school, you say, hey, go and learn trade. It's a lie. That's even wrong. Even us that feel we know and we are schooled and educated should even be around trade, buying and selling, because that is where the world works. But in a cultural and background setting, we see people that say, he's not very good with school, send him to go and learn trade, as though trade is for people who are mentally retarded, which is very wrong. So the number 3 point here is find one mentor and one peer network. Don't build it alone. You have a skill, you have identified what you want to build. You have to be in the right space where some of these discussions are being heard. Try to be in places where issues of national development and impact are being discussed. Be in a place where you can write someone, connect with them, and then get possible insight on how to build and develop. Now, the last one is let no rejection, no record, and no lack of funding be the final word. I repeat that: let no rejection, no record, and no lack of funding be the final word, right? You have started a business that didn't work, that's fine. You've been rejected in places where you went to seek for funding, that's fine. All right, you have a record, say you've been in and out of prison or something, or you, I don't know, maybe family or something that is really you are not proud of to share with people. Don't let that be a hindering factor for you to come out. The world is a global village now. People start businesses just on TikTok. People start businesses, people sell their products on TikTok, on YouTube, on different medium, anyone you're comfortable with. If you know you want to scale higher, you can start not just at that your little cubicle. Take the business out. There are people who need you. No matter how crazy you are, no matter how crazy your business idea is, there are people who need it. All right, and we have to start pushing ourselves out there. Thank you so much. I think that's the last slide. Yes, thank you. That's the last slide. Now let's keep in touch, right? We can connect on LinkedIn if you want. Colin Tibauchi is on the screen, and then yeah, if you want us to talk more about some of these things, I'm very, very happy to be in communication with you. And I thank the organizers of Yang. I had to run through because I checked my phone and then I saw it's already 8 p.m. here. So yeah, thank you so much and remain blessed. Please, Jeremiah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Collins. This was really, really, really expository, and some of my takeaways, you know, um, were the fact that we should start before we are funded, and this sort of speak, to the average youth in Nigeria or in Africa, building something. You're never noticed until probably you've done your MVP or your product is sort of bringing in, fund, right? That is when the world is start noticing you, or organizations that are ready to fund you will start noticing you. All right, and I think that speaks to a lot. You spoke about, selling to the world and not just your streets. Um, okay, so it's like a personal revelation. In the past, I was like really, really scared to offer my services to people that are, beyond my own boundary, right? And I sort of connect to what you were saying, there, until I started, exposing myself to a lot of information, exposing myself to, people that are, far beyond just my locality, right?